Kylo Ren was one of the most powerful Force users to be born after the Battle of Yavin, carrying the blood of the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. He was an incredibly skilled young boy who had great potential to carry on the legacy of Luke Skywalker. So before we get into this what if scenario, trust me it's a good one, remember to obliterate the subscribe button and smash that like button, as well as leaving a comment down below with your predictions for part 2 of the story. Also, I just want to apologise if my voice is a bit off for this video. Unfortunately, I'm sick at the moment, but I don't want to let that stop me from bringing you guys the great content you enjoy. So let's get straight into it. Luke considered the fall of Ben to the dark side to be one of his greatest failures, exiling himself to Ahch-To as punishment. So what if Ben Solo never turned to the dark side of the Force? Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, was one of the most conflicted characters in the sequel trilogy. He began as an unassuming son to Han and Leia, who would go off to train as a Jedi at Luke's new academy. Having the blood of Skywalker within him, Ben was one of the most gifted students at Luke's academy, growing in power as the days went by. Under the dark influence of Emperor Palpatine through the body of Snoke, Ben Solo was slowly corrupted and degraded until he was at his breaking point. Luke sensed the darkness rising within Ben, and in a brief moment of anger he drew his lightsaber on Ben, hoping to stop the rise of a new dark side force before it even began. This finally pushed Ben over the edge, pushing him into the arms of Snoke and the Knights of Ren. Now this is just after the point where the timeline would split from the original timeline. Luke would not pull his lightsaber out, threatening to kill Ben Solo. He would instead begin to meditate and seek guidance from his father and master. Obi-Wan Kenobi, being one of the most adherent Jedi of his time, would suggest that Luke take Ben into isolation, somewhere where the light side is very strong, and have him express his feelings to Luke. Anakin, on the other hand, having been down the path of darkness in the past, would suggest that Luke show him the benefits of the light and the negatives of the dark. He would tell Ben the story of his grandfather and how the dark side ultimately wasn't the solution to his worries. In the end, he destroyed everything he loved, but still wasn't able to save the love of his life, Padme. The next morning, when Ben arrived at the Jedi Temple with his fellow Padawans, he would be greeted by Luke. Luke would ultimately decide to take the advice of his father over Obi-Wan's, opting to show Luke the power of the light side and the corruption of the dark. Just as Luke did in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, he would take Ben to visit various Jedi outposts and artifacts around the galaxy, in search of the lost knowledge of the light side of the Force. They would fight numerous battles shoulder to shoulder against the Knights of Ren, always coming out on top. The Knights of Ren would still offer Ben Solo a position within their ranks, just as in the original timeline, but the guidance of Luke would cast off his pull to the dark, and leading him to decline the offer. Palpatine would still be speaking to Ben through Snoke, but once again, he would not engage with Snoke, as the guidance and love of Luke would give Ben no reason to seek the dark. Continuing to follow his father's advice, Luke would move on from demonstrating the benefits of the light side outposts into showing the pain and suffering of the dark. They would explore many dark shrines like Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar and the Imperial Palace on Coruscant. Luke's confidence in his students allowed him to show off these dark side locations without fear of them being corrupted. Because Luke realised the failure of the Republic-era Jedi laid within their arrogance and their closed-mindedness, he didn't want his students to fall into the same trap. He firmly believed that while only the light side should be utilised, all aspects of the Force should be recognised. Because Snoke's attempts to turn Ben to the dark were now known to Luke, Ben was able to talk about it and release his frustrations. This allowed Luke to make adjustments to his teaching style and repair the shortcomings of the previous Jedi Code. At this point, we move closer to the original timeline. Luke is using his outings to these dark side locations with Ben as a means to find Sith wayfinders, believing they would lead back to the origin of Snoke. Although this was unknown to Ben, Luke hoped to find the true identity of Snoke and eliminate him before he had the chance to turn any of his other students. Luke decides to take only Ben with him on this extremely important mission. Although he believes the other students would be capable of facing Snoke together, this was a job for just Luke and Ben alone. Ben uses his contact with Snoke to gain access to the second Sith Wayfinder, manipulating him into giving him more information about his origin. The pair travel across the galaxy until they are forced to stop on Naboo because of damage to their ship. Upon their arrival, they are greeted by the Queen of Naboo and sent to their quarters while repairs are made on their ship. Luke and Ben both sense a significant dark side presence on the planet, drawing them towards a small home in the capital city of Theed. Although the pair are reluctant, they have no choice but to investigate this dark side presence. Faint howls could be heard and a cool chill swept across the street they were walking on. They knew they were at the right location despite it looking like a completely normal house, the same as any other on the street. It was ravaged by the presence of the dark side of the Force, radiating pain through the bodies of Luke and Ben. Ben proceeds to destroy the door with a swift kick, unleashing a scream from the rear of the house. This scream didn't come from a person, but a disturbance in the Force. As the pair meandered around the house, they were bathed in the dark side. A familiar voice filled Luke's head, bringing back painful memories of his past. This was the home of the most powerful Sith Lord of all time, Darth Sidious. Emperor Palpatine's home was left untouched from the moment he left after killing his parents and taking the apprenticeship of Darth Plagueis. Ben was unaware of the true wickedness of Palpatine in his prime, but could recognize the shocked look on Luke's face. For a Jedi Master of such power to be left stunned meant that this man had to have had some extreme significance in his life. The pair quickly break open the basement door with their lightsabers, entering the smoky room. A bright red light emanates from the far corner, giving off a dark side hum. It was the final Sith Wayfinder they needed to find and confront Snoke himself. With the Wayfinder in hand, they rushed outside of the gloomy dwelling, returning to their quarters and awaiting their ship's repair. Although Luke was very concerned that the path to Snoke was contained within the former house of the Emperor, he did not yet realise that it was Palpatine pulling the strings. He thought that his encounter with Palpatine on the second Death Star was the end of his story. As the pair awoke the next morning, they were ready to finally face their dark opponent. With their ship repaired and the Sith Wayfinder complete, a course was set for the unknown regions world of Exegol. Luke had only heard rumours of there being a new Sith homeworld in the unknown regions, but this confirmed it. Ben meditated on the journey, hoping to further strengthen his connection to the light side in preparation for their battle with Snoke. As their ship moves into the nebulous atmosphere of Exegol, they struggled to land on the treacherous planet as their navigation systems and rear engines are fried by the electromagnetic pulses. They enter the mighty Sith arena the same way that Kylo Ren did in the original timeline. To their shock and surprise, the two are greeted by Snoke, but not in the same way that they were expecting. They were met by 500 Snokes, each one in separate jars, the same ones we see in the original timeline. Realization sweeps over Luke as he now accepts that Snoke was simply a clone being controlled by the one man he feared most, Emperor Palpatine. Ben and Luke rush through the laboratory, shattering every single jar that contained a clone of Snoke. The room was quickly bathed in an increasingly red mist. Many questions flooded over Luke about how this could be possible. How did Palpatine survive? How is he able to clone Force-sensitive beings? Why has he chosen Exegol over Moraband? During the process of destroying these jars, Sith Eternal Cultists, each with their own shade of red lightsaber, surround Luke and Ben. They valiantly fight the brutal cultists, eventually coming back to back to finish off the leader. The leader of the Sith Eternal Cultists carried a blade seen very rarely, one that Luke had never witnessed with his own eyes before. A purple blade. Ben and Luke combine their light side strength to fight off the leader of the cultists, but he manages to put up a rigorous fight. Shockingly, this man uses Sith Force Lightning on Ben, leaving him helpless on the ground. Luke, surrounded by the dark, refuses to use his anger to strike down the cultist leader. Instead, he surrounds his mind with the light and calmly continues his duel. The fight continues raging on before an ominous cackle can be heard from the shadows. The cultist leader retreats into the darkness as the evil laughter increases in volume. Luke knows this laughter. He knows the person waiting in the shadows to take his revenge for the events that occurred on the second Death Star. The stage has now been set for the duel that was always meant to be. So, before we go any further, leave a comment down below right now, tell me who you think the leader of the Sith Eternal Cultists is. Who is the one wielding the purple lightsaber? Let me know down in the comments below before you do anything else. Go make a comment, go leave a like, go subscribe. And that's it for part 1 of the theory. If you'd like to hear the rest of the story, including the fight with the purple lightsaber wielding cultist, leave a comment down below and make sure to smash that like button. Also remember to hit the subscribe button with the bell to be notified when part 2 is released. So thank you so much again for watching and have a great day, guys.